So in the last episode, Ronin, Maria, and Asel were on a mission to score Ronin a top-notch sword from a skilled blacksmith. Enter Diddy Khan, the apprentice of the Grandmaster Blacksmith. They threw down in a strength test, and surprise, surprise, our main character aced it. Post-victory, the werewolf Didakon guided them to this hidden gem known as the Grand Carpadoki, a secret spot where all the Empire's craftsmen work their magic. The blacksmith wielded the hammer with tremendous force. Several blacksmiths are diligently working at their anvils. Ronin couldn't have imagined that there was such a huge forge underneath the capital. Didakon explained that their forge only supplies their items to the royal family as well as the nobles. There is no discrimination in this place. It's a gathering of skilled master craftsmen. However, the one hailed as the best among them is the elder dwarf, residing in the building before which they are standing. That blacksmith is a master who smelted metal for 400 years. Didakon described the man to be quite stubborn, but his skills are unrivaled, so Didakon respected him. He says that as he kicks the door open. Weapons are scattered on the ground. He asked what the elder was doing. He entered the room and announced that he had brought guests. The blacksmith is currently forging a blade. The blacksmith knew it was Didakon, with the way he entered and caused a ruckus. He reminded Didakon to be quiet when he's working, but Didakon doesn't really listen. Didakon replied that he can't do anything about it since there were weapons in front of the door, so he couldn't open it. So, he told the blacksmith, whom he called Elder Daron, to clean up. Elder Daron answered that, for a young guy, he nags a lot. He changed the topic to the guests that Didakon brought and asked if they're not bad. Didakon confidently answered, of course. Didakon pointed at Ronan and narrated to Elder Daron that he tested him, and his sword skills were great. He added that he's sure the elder will be shocked once he sees it. That piece of information surprised Elder Daron, and he uttered that it was unexpected. Judging by how Ronan looks, he looks like a child. Elder Daron asked Ronan to show him his swordsmanship. He commented that he can tell a lot of things just by looking. Ronan seemed flustered, but he easily complied and drew out his sword. Elder Daron saw his sword and laughed. He called it rubbish while lightly hammering, and the sword shattered. He asked Ronan if he was carrying that weapon the whole time. Ronan, Asel, Maria, and Sita looked truly surprised to witness the sword falling apart. Ronan became triggered and exclaimed, demanding an explanation for the old man's actions. Elder Dorone, however, calmly pointed behind Ronan and told him to swing any of the swords over there, since with that trashy sword earlier, he wouldn't be able to accurately get a sense of Ronan's true skill. On top of that, Elder Daron told him that he will give Ronan the sword that he chose so he won't feel cheated, since any of the swords that he will choose will be 100 times better than the piece of trash that he used to swing. This piqued Ronan's interest. Ronan glanced at Didakon, who gave him a nod, and uttered, "Well, if you insist." He gazed upon the sword that he had chosen and thought that the vibe is really different. But he still doubted if it would really be that different. He gave the elder a caution that it won't be his fault if something got destroyed. Elder Daron agreed, and told him that he doesn't care. He just wants Ronan to do it properly. He told him to think that he's putting his all into his swing. Ronan stared at his reflection on the blade. He then recalled his encounter with Navaros. He moved to prepare his combat stance, and the movement was recognized by the elder, and Ronan swung his sword with all his might. This was the same move that Instructor Navaros did. This triggered a massive explosion inside the building, causing its structure to shatter into pieces. People outside the building were extremely surprised. They traced the explosion to Elder Daron's place. They wondered what was going on in the middle of the day. They wondered if a blast furnace exploded. Yet there stood Elder Daron and Ronan, with Sita frozen in complete shock. A massive dent along the floor was seen. Ronan, being utterly clueless, asked, "What just happened?" He tried to explain that it wasn't his intention to do that. Elder Daron announced that the technique is Navaros's. He asked Ronan if he's an apprentice. Ronan asked Elder Daron if he knew about Instructor Navaros, and the elder confidently answered that he did, since he's the one who made her sword. Ronan was surprised to hear that. He asked if the elder is pertaining to the stupidly long sword. Elder Daron confirmed it. That sword is called the Secret Sword, Urusa. Elder Daron explained that it's one of the few masterpieces that he forged throughout his life, and informed Ronan that the sword that he's holding doesn't even compare to that sword. He asked how the sword was for Ronan. Ronan responded that it was amazing. Ronan admitted that he thought it wouldn't really do much, and Elder Daron affirmed that it was exactly what he thought, that Ronan is a newbie who couldn't judge his own skill well. Elder Daron was elated to convey that it had been a while since he had witnessed such talent. Fueled by his excitement, he patted Ronan's back with such force that it elicited a groaning noise from Ronan. Elder Daron informed him that it's also a problem if he's too talented, because it will be hard to forge a sword that will suit him. It can be easily seen that the sword that he just used is finding it difficult to handle his swings. Ronan noticed the crack on the blade of the sword. He asked what he should do. Elder Daron told him that normal materials won't last against his power. He needs to use highest-grade steel and melt it with a special material. The blacksmith thinks that at least a byproduct of a wyvern would be enough, but he still wondered what else could be good. Ronan seemed to realize something when he heard the word byproduct. He brought out something and asked if that could be used. Elder Daron took a good look at it and found that it was an eggshell. The front door of Elder Daron was still intact, but the massive hole on the wall on the side can be easily noticed. He started forging, but he couldn't believe his eyes. His mithril hammer against the mere shell of an egg. It's useless. It doesn't even make a dent. He couldn't fathom that a material like that exists. With passion and excitement, he asked Ronan if it's really okay for him to use that valuable thing. Ronan answered that it's okay since it's useless for him anyway, and asked if that's enough to make him a sword. Elder Daron seemed hyped about his new task and answered Ronan, yes, and he could come back for it after 2 weeks. He announced that he'll prepare the Empire's best sword. Ronan replied that he'll be looking forward to it. Assel and Maria were occupied looking at the other weapons in the building. Elder Daron told them that since they are already there, they should go to meet other masters too. The two seemed to be elated with that thought. Elder Daron explained that he can't just send back the friends of the valuable person empty-handed. He told them to inform the masters that they visited upon his referral and the masters will look after them. He admitted that he wants to take care of them too, but at the moment, he can't do anything else except for smelting the egg. He worked with his hammer and let out a hearty laugh as he commented that it was a great sound. Ronan and the rest witnessed this, and they all have funny expressions on their faces. Ronan couldn't help but think that the old man is crazy. Meanwhile, an underground location is being lit up by several torches. An angry person wearing a white hood commented that the guys above them are loud and annoying. He added that he's at the point where he wants to set them all on fire. Another guy in white robes told him to hold back since it's not the time to reveal themselves, and that it won't be that much longer now. Inside the underground base, there are several massive stone figures. The person in white robe narrated that starting from those ignorant blacksmiths, and everything in the Empire, the day that everything disappears and is buried in light is coming. They were looking at a massive entity with red glowing eyes enclosed in a yellowish crystal. A few days later, Ronan is walking in the school grounds. He recalled his encounter with Elder Doreen. The old man, who's regarded as the best blacksmith in the Empire, is going to make him a sword. Assel and Maria are even commissioning the other blacksmiths in the area. He's aware that it looked like it would cost a lot, but none of it was his problem. He happily took out the Grangchia emblem. The costs weren't his problem because it's not his money. He'll pay for everything using the emblem. But there is just one problem. The sword takes up to half a month until it's complete. Ronan is bored and he's thinking of what to do until then. Assel and Maria were in class at the moment. He then noticed his surroundings. He realized that the place seemed familiar. It was the training center used exclusively by the upperclassmen. He's in front of the Galilean Hall. He's aware that it is the place where Instructor Navirose holds her classes. He's putting off coming there because the instructor told him that he should bring a real weapon first, but now he thought that he already has something to use temporarily, and he wondered if he should go today. Before he could finish his thoughts, he sensed an ominous aura. He looked to the side and was horrified to see Instructor Navirose. She pinched his ears with strength and told him, "Long time no see." She reminded Ronan to come to class after he got a weapon. He asked him why he had been up late. She speculated that he was skipping classes. While his ears are still being pinched, Ronan answered that he's not skipping classes, and that he has his own circumstances. The instructor dragged him by his ears and told him to follow her. She told him that she'll listen to his excuses along the way. Ronan replied that he already got it and asked her to let him go. He yelled that it hurts. His loud voice caught the attention of one of the students. The student went to the window to check what the noise was. As she's on her way to check it, a male student bumped into her and scolded her for blocking the way. She apologized to the male student named Cardan. As she picked up the papers that fell, Cardan continued to criticize her for being so slow despite being a teaching assistant. Cardan called her a moron and told her that if she has time to space out, she should just quickly prepare for class. She just agreed and left. At the sparring center 1, Navarros, together with Ronan, faced the students. She told them that he's noisy during the entrance ceremony, so many of them probably know him already. She formally introduced Ronan to the students, and that Ronan will be attending the class with all of them. Ronan bowed and introduced himself by saying that he's a first-year martial arts department and that he'll be in their care. The students started gossiping among themselves. One student asked if he's the one who got second place among the first years. Another one expressed that it was expected for Ronan to skip a grade. Others doubted his ability and judged him by how he looks. In his mind, he thought, "I can hear everything, you bastards." But he spotted familiar faces that he was glad to see, and one that he's not glad to see. He thought that it would be fun, but his thoughts were instantly gone when someone entered the room. The woman entered and apologized for being late. This is the same woman who heard him screaming earlier. The woman approached the front while explaining that she had to finish something urgent. Ronan seemed to recognize the voice. She asked Navarros if she had waited for a long time. Navarros told her that it's fine and she should catch her breath first. Navarros told her that she was just introducing a new guy and pointed at Ronan. The woman knew that it was the famous junior that Navarros talked about. Navarros instructed Ronan to greet the teaching assistant. The woman turned to him and told him that it was nice to meet him. She introduced herself as a second year from the martial arts department and the teaching assistant of the class. Her name is Adashan. She extended her hand and told him that she hoped that they would get along. Ronan was really surprised. The Grand Commander was in front of him. Adashan Aklusia is acknowledged for her overwhelming ability to command. She rose to become the first female general, the one who dominates the battlefield with cool-headed judgment and excellent leadership. She is also called the Iron Lady. Those who underwent her leadership would describe to her that what runs in her veins is molten iron, not blood. Because of that, Ronan thought that it was unimaginable that the Grand Commander would make a happy and relaxed expression. Ronan observed her, and he can tell that she had no recollection of the past. He wondered if what he's seeing now is the true face of the general in his first life. And he recalled the favor that she asked him back then. She asked him to tell her to do tailoring instead of wasting time on nonsense. Ronan was puzzled about what he had to do. It was a big problem for him, but setting that aside, he noticed something earlier. A student rudely called Adashan to take a look at his stance. Another student rudely asked Adashan for another handkerchief, and she attended to more students. Ronan wondered why she was so busy. He had observed that she's even doing the errands that only a maid would have to do. He started questioning if a teaching assistant should be like that. A student approached Ronan and commented that he looked bored earlier. He invited Ronan to spar with him. Ronan asked him, "A spar?" All of a sudden, and the guy apologized for it being too sudden. The guy introduced himself as Cardan Owen, a third-year student. He told Ronan that he heard that he was amazing during the face-to-face ceremony. He added that if the rumors were true, he'd like to use the sparring to learn something. Ronan told him that there's something that he's occupied with right now. Ronan was about to say that they'll do it later, but Cardan cut him mid-sentence by commenting that he did not bring his weapon when he asked for a spar. Cardan looked at Adashan, addressed her as a moron, and commanded her to bring him his practice spear. Adashan acknowledged his request with a smile. She told him that she would bring it in no time. Ronan felt furious. The word loser echoed in his ears. His expression became dark as he thought about how Cardan dared to call her that. Adeshan handed Carden his weapon, but Carden seemed confused. He scolded her for bringing the long spear, since it's been a while since he switched to short spear. Adeshan apologized and explained that he was using a long spear last class. Carden got annoyed with her even more. He smacked her head using the spear and scolded her for talking back to him, and criticized her that she doesn't know it when she's the teaching assistant. Carden insulted her by saying that in the first place, she's not qualified to attend their class. He continued smacking the crown of her head. Carden added that if she was able to enter after begging the instructor, she should have at least do her chores well. He asked her if she had no conscience or she's just too shameless. Adeshan apologized, and our MC was just listening to their conversation. Ronan grabbed the body of the spear. Adeshan was shocked with his action. Carden asked Ronan why he was butting in. Ronan told him that they should do what he suggested, and added that, if not, I have no idea what I'd do. Carden was confused about what Ronan was talking about. Ronan asked him why doesn't he understand. With a furious expression, Ronan told Carden, "Let's spar, you fucking dumbass." Carden commented that it was a little shocking. He asked Ronan if he heard him right and what he didn't like. He looked at Ronan's angry expression and realized something, that he's doing it because of that loser named Adeshan. He asked Ronan if he knew her. He continued to ask if it's because they're both lowly commoners. Carden continued to make a comment on how Ronan and Adeshan are twins, but he didn't know about it. Ronan let the spear go, and he told Carden to shut up and get beaten. He had a horrifying expression as he threatened him if he doesn't want to get fucked up. He swung his sword towards him, and Carden had a difficult time blocking it with his spear. Carden was struggling, and he noticed something. His spear is forming cracks, and Carden wonders how Ronan can use such power without using any mana. Carden was blasted away with Ronan's strength. The spear was broken in half. Ronan told him that, since he's whining because he doesn't want to use the spear, he changed it for him. As if to mock him, Ronan asked if Carden liked it. Carden couldn't contain his anger. He charged at Ronan while telling him that he doesn't know his place. The spear is approaching Ronan, but he remains calm. Carden threatened Ronan by asking him if he thinks he'll get out unscathed after that. The spear is just an inch close to Ronan's face, but in a swift motion, it broke. It was cut cleanly into several pieces. Carden was shocked while Ronan calmly answered him, "Yeah, I will be." Carden couldn't believe it, while Ronan continued to talk to him, and told him that he should just worry about himself, and he swung his sword several times. He had hit Carden with a powerful force that blasted Carden away, but Ronan didn't stop there. His sword met Carden's face, as well as the torso, and he held the sword with both hands to prepare for a powerful strike. And he swung it swiftly, hitting Carden's body and jaw. Carden groaned in pain. His face was swollen. His body collided with the ground. With a fierce expression, Ronan told him that he's lucky they met inside the academy. If they were outside, Carden would have already died. The onlookers couldn't believe that Carden lost when he's one of the highly ranked among the third years. Ronan approached the students while picking who the next one will be. He pointed at the guy with the towel. "Yo." He stepped closer to the guy while scolding him that if it smells, he should be the one to wash it and not ask others to do it for him. Ronan was about to address Adeshan as Grand Commander, but instantly changed it to Assistant Instructor and asked the guy if she is his servant. The guy was panicking in fear. Our MC asked him to step forward and told him that he would wreck his nostrils, but Adeshan stepped in. She told him that she doesn't understand why he's doing it, but assured him that she's fine, and asked him to calm down. But Ronan told her to move. It is evident in Ronan's expression that he's trying to contain his anger. He told her that he can hold back on other things, but not when she's being looked down on. Ronan had a serious expression, as he thought that it wouldn't be those idiots, and corrected himself that no one can look down on her. He recalled the Grand Commander, and thought that at least in the Empire, she is someone who isn't supposed to be treated that way. He brushed her and politely asked her to move while saying that he won't stop until he beats those guys. But the atmosphere changed as soon as Navarose commanded everyone to stop. Her aura covered Ronan as she commanded him to stop. This made Ronan come back to his senses. She approaches him while emitting a horrifying aura. She told Ronan that he won't be held responsible for the fight that he just had since more unfortunate accidents can happen in real battles. Navirose's aura is depicted as a ferocious serpent's eye, and it was like the scaly, serpent-like body was wrapped around her. She wore a serious expression, while she explains that if Ronan escalates things further, she will no longer overlook things. She told him to drop his sword and walk away. Ronan couldn't move his body. He had a horrified expression as he looked back. He saw a huge snake ready to devour him. Its tongue almost reached his face. He started to realize that it is the unprecedented sword saint, Instructor Navirose's aura. Navirose told him that what he was about to do couldn't be considered as a spar. And since she's the instructor for the class, she couldn't leave the lesson, deviate further. Ronan replied that she should have known what her teaching assistant was going through. Our MC gripped his sword and continued saying that up until now Navirose just stood and watched, despite knowing what was happening. Navirose told him that it's between her and her assistant, and it doesn't concern him. And with fierce eyes, she told him that it's her last warning, and he should stop. Ronan met her gaze with the same fierce expression. Ronan told her that it doesn't matter if she's the unprecedented sword saint or not. He pointed his sword at her and told her that his decision remains the same. With a furious expression, he told her, "Fuck off." Navirose commented that it can't be helped. And she called out, "The grieving snake," and the snake's mouth opened wide as if it was ready to devour Ronan. Ronan smirked, and a green aura continued to envelope him. He recalled a memory from the past where he asked the Grand Commander why she volunteered to take the position of the commander when everybody else declined. The Grand Commander answered that he'll understand one day and explained that there are things that you can't force someone else to do, and it's one's own destiny. He clearly remembers the Grand Commander's reply, and he wondered what she was thinking. He recalled the time that they stood in front of a pile of corpses, and he wondered what burden she was carrying on her shoulders. The Grand Commander addressed him and sincerely apologized for passing the burden on to him. She told him not to forgive her. Ronan woke up screaming, "No!" He was panting, and someone asked him what was wrong. The lady asked if he had a nightmare. Ronan was surprised to see who it was. He couldn't help but stare at the Grand Commander while she stares back at him.